Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Lynn Tackett.
And this is Shawn.
Welcome to TNT Big Show. And if you like our content, hit the subscribe button, ring that notification bell. And if you want to help with the algorithm, you can leave a thumbs up and a comment. Well, in 1 week, the Video Game Awards are going to be on. And let's just face it, we're mainly going to watch for the trailers and stuff.
Like I said, it's like that old Super Bowl analogy, you know?
Yeah, like if you have two teams that won't put up a good game or something and you're just sitting there like, oh my god, I'm just watching for the dang trailers and commercials. I have to wonder though, are the Video Game Awards prejudiced against Japanese culture? One of the greatest RPGs of the last decade has been Xenoblade Chronicles 2. 1 and 2 both are two of the best RPGs you'll ever play. Yet the VGA Awards pretty much snub both games. A game like Death Stranding, which has some of the most boring art in a video game. You can think the graphics are good because they're really detailed and stuff, but the art style is boring.
Yeah.
That got nominated for Best Art Style, but Fire Emblem or Astral Chain didn't get nominated. That's ridiculous.
And let's talk about this year.
Yeah.
Cyberpunk 2027 gets nominated for Best RPG, not Bravely Default 2 or Monster Hunter Stories 2.
Yeah.
I mean, really? Cyberpunk 2077?
And before some people start, we're going, like they nominated Tales of Arise, which is more westernized now.
Yeah.
It has a cel-shaded look a little bit, but it's darker and it's got more of a westernized look.
Well, it does. Like
Monster Hunter Rise doesn't look like an Eastern game. It don't.
No.
We're talking about games that really, really, really look Japanese, like Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and 2, Fire Emblem, games like that, Astral Chain. All those games I just mentioned. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 was a Game of the Year contender, but it didn't get nominated. Octopath Traveler should have been nominated for Game of the Year, but it didn't. Games that, I'll just be honest, shouldn't be nominated. Games like Death Stranding.
Cyberpunk.
Well, that's RPG, but still, I know what you mean.
Yeah,
I mean, these games, the fact that Cyberpunk got nominated for RPG of the Year and Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and 2 didn't is
disgusting.
robbery. It's disgusting.
It's disgusting.
It is. Because, like I said in the last video we did about Cyberpunk, even people who like this mess, below par game have said that the RPG elements were the worst part about it. And just because Xenoblade Chronicles 2 had a more complex battle system and stuff, a lot of critics bashed on the game.
Yeah.
That's not the game's fault if you're not smart enough to figure it out.
Exactly.
That's why didn't it confuse me? I wonder if, let's just say, folks, there had never been a one-on-one fighting game before. Street Fighter 2 would have came out. I think a lot of critics would have bashed that game.
Yeah.
These controls, they're different. Oh my god, and they'd have thrown the controller down and been like, I can't take this.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, say what you want to about my generation of gamers, but the fact is, when something came along that was new, like Street Fighter, we made it a mission to master those controls.
Exactly.
Nowadays, anything that deviates from the norm gets butchered.
Exactly.
And that is just true.
Yeah.
There are some people that didn't like the game Astral Chain, even though I think it's a masterpiece, just because it was different.
Yeah.
And I'm just sitting there like, once you get the hang of it, it's real easy.
It's real good, yeah.
Well, it's not easy, but, like,
it's really to
do great combos and stuff. Does it take a little to get used to? Yes, but that's the fun of it.
Exactly.
A lot of people ignored the game, especially at the Video Game Awards. That game, to me, was even better than the Devil May Cry 5, which is an incredible game within itself.
Yeah.
It was so Japanese and stuff.
Yeah.
Fire Emblem rightfully won Game of the Year by the fans, but not by the VGAs. And I have nothing against Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, but it was just a more refined version of Dark Souls. There was nothing new or innovative about it.
Yeah.
Nothing ambitious about it, the way there was with Fire Emblem. So that just gets me to wonder, are a lot of the video game critics and press and media, are they racist against Japanese culture?
They are. I think they are. I really do. I think they are.
It's like they want to promote a certain style of game, quick time button mashing cinematic games that are easy for anybody to understand, and games that require more skill and thought. And this goes for games on other systems too, not just Nintendo systems. A lot of people that thought Gravity Rush should have been nominated for Game of the Year, and that was on PlayStation 4, but it didn't get nothing. It wasn't your typical...
Exactly, but see, that's another thing, though. You'll never, and I mean this, you will never see a game like Gravity Rush on a Sony platform again, because
they closed down their Japanese
They closed
studio.
down the company that made Gravity Rush. They closed it down. And they closed down all their offices and moved to California.
Yeah.
They wanted to be more westernized.
Yep, and that's the sad part. Capcom is getting it right. Like, their games can appeal to Western audiences, but they don't forget their Eastern sensibilities either.
No.
And look at the success of Rise, Stories 2, and all these other games that, like Monster Hunter Stories 2 is very Japanese, but yet it's almost sold 2 million copies already.
Yeah.
And that's highly impressive for a game like that.
Yes.
Square Enix, to me, is doing the wrong thing by trying to modernize some of its games, because, and I'm not saying that they shouldn't change, it's always good to add new stuff, change things, but you don't want to do it so radically where it doesn't seem like the franchise that it started as. Mario and Zelda change all the time, but they make sure that they're still Mario and Zelda.
The perfect example of that, I'm glad you brought that up, Michelle, is Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy is so westernized now.
Oh, yeah.
It's not if you compare the two, they look shockingly different from night and day.
Yeah.
They don't look like the same game anymore.
No, and they've streamlined and dumbed down. I mean, I don't mind streamlined, but they've dumbed down the gameplay so that way, anyone can pick up and play it. Which, I'm like, okay, I understand that. Nintendo makes their games, but Nintendo also makes their games hard to master. They may be simple to pick up, but they're hard to master. And Square, they're not even doing that now.
That's what I mean, and to me, this is just old school Shawn Tackett talking. If there are other genres and stuff that want to cross and mix, that's fine. But in a Final Fantasy game, I don't want to see machine guns, rocket launchers, and that's not Final Fantasy. I mean, it's not.
I know, it wouldn't bother me, though, if they would just have some actual, fantasy elements
That's what I'm saying. They don't have fantasy elements anymore. They're going for the urban and realistic
sci-fi,
stuff. That's not Final Fantasy.
No, it's not. No, I don't have nothing to know, like, if they want to add different weapons and stuff. My problem is that they pretty much, for Final Fantasy, there's no fantasy in there.
That's what I mean. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean they should. I mean, it should be called Final Science Fiction now.
No, or Final Call of Duty.
Yeah, it's getting too westernized, and a lot of people are already dreading 16 because of it's going to have more combat like the Devil May Cry. Nothing wrong with Devil May Cry combat, but this is Final Fantasy. It's lost its identity.
Exactly. Well, the main reason on that, because the great and wonderful company Monolith, when Square Enix stabbed Nintendo in the back and took Final Fantasy away from Nintendo, the main people who made the old Final Fantasy games, Monolith, went back to Nintendo.
Oh, yeah.
So just like Rare, Square Enix is an empty shell of itself. The little subdivisions that Square has makes great games like Octopath Traveler and stuff.
But the Final Fantasy team just isn't the same.
Yeah, it's just not.
No.
It's just not.
But, it's just those games are more likely, though, to get nominated for Game of the Year. Final Fantasy games are.
Yeah.
Compared to the Xenoblade games.
Because they're more westernized now.
And also, I just wonder if some of the people are just mad at Monolith Soft for leaving Square.
Probably.
Because ever since Monolith Soft left Square, the Final Fantasy games have just gone down.
They have stunk.
There was a time when Final Fantasy was just as big as Zelda. Now it's not even close.
No.
Because
I can tell you folks right now, if Square brought out Final Fantasy 14, 15, and 16, and 13 on the Switch, I wouldn't buy them.
I wouldn't blame
Switch or not, it doesn't matter what system they're on. The games just stink.
Well, I totally agree. I think the Video Game Awards, though, have a cultural superiority complex.
They do.
To Japanese games.
They do.
I think it has to do with this, like, how sexualized. They think that, the female characters are too sexualized. Oh, really? Do we want to talk about Tomb Raider and even Mortal Kombat in them? How
Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, Grand Theft Auto. It's a pair, it doesn't matter. The women are still sexualized and stuff. When a Japanese RPG does it, which, by the way, they sexualize the men too.
Yeah.
If you play Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Pyra and Mithra are not the only ones that are sexualized. You also have Jen and the rest of when they're in blade form.
Yeah.
They're in skimpy outfits.
Yeah.
And in Xenoblade Chronicles 1, you could wear nothing but shulk shorts.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so I think it has to do with the fact that a lot of these developers are like, oh, the Japanese games treat women. And I'm like, well, yeah, let's look at the American games, why don't we?
Yeah. Like I said, at least in Xenoblade and them, you don't beat and slap women around like you do in Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, and the women are empowered.
Exactly. You know, the women are empowered.
The most powerful characters in Xenoblade are Pyra and Mithra.
Yeah.
Well, I'm tired of this misperception.
Yeah.
And I'm tired of the video game media acting like Japanese games are kind of beneath them.
Yeah.
And they can say, oh, no, we don't do that. Subconsciously, you do.
You do. Yeah.
Even if you're not aware of it, you do. Because you think that our culture is so great, and really, it's not. But no, it's just, like I said, that really bugs me that Xenoblade has never been nominated for Best RPG art style. And I'm just sitting there like, when you look at Xenoblade games, they have some of the most beautiful art style you'll ever see in a game.
Yeah.
When I watch the Video Game Awards next week, it sure as hell isn't going to be for the awards.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah, it's trailers, baby, all the way.
Yeah, Metroid Dread should win Game of the Year, but we know
it won't.
Yeah, we know either Deathloop or Ratchet and Clank will win it.
Yeah, once again, watered down, monotone, westernized games. That's what gamers in the U.S. want.
This is Michelle Lynn Tackett.
This is Shawn.
Have a good one. Thank you all for enjoying the video, and thanks to our Patreons for supporting us. You guys help make this video possible. And you can also join our Patreon if you want for as little as $1 a month. You can get things like Jack's Joke of the Week, which will be up later today. You can also join our Reddit, which is TNTEgames. And you can also join our Discord, which is TNT Big Show -3665. And that's not all. We have an Instagram, we have TikTok, and we have a WordPress blog. Thank you all for supporting us so much, and have a wonderful day.